What is going on, everybody? My name is JT from PWB, and last night we had a huge show for AEW, AEW Big Business, March 13th, 2024. I was waiting for the ratings to come in before actually diving into the show, just because I thought it would be an interesting talking point. Not that the ratings are super important anymore, just because of cable and how it is nowadays, but this number is going to get mocked a lot online. It's going to be close the Bird app if you don't want to be involved in that discussion. But they just came out about 5 minutes ago, and AEW did 101,000 and a 0.27 in the key demo. I was kind of thinking that 900K and then a 0.34 would have been like just a huge, massive win for the company. But obviously, this is disappointing, and I'm not sure exactly. I think one of the main issues with AEW currently is that they just don't promote very well locally or really promote anything super well online until even the day of. So I'm not really sure that the CM Punk approach with Mercedes Moné was the right one. Obviously, with Punk, it drew a massive rating when he went on the Rampage. So yeah, I would say to avoid the conversation and the discourse around this Moné rating, this Big Business rating, because I think long term, if you consistently been putting up the quality of shows that they have recently, and you actually fix your promoting and turn that around, ratings will gradually grow. But I still don't think it's not just going to be an overnight massive shift just like that. So I think it's important to not overstate this, even though obviously it was a terrible number. So you can't really ignore that. Now, if you want to look at it from a positive perspective, that the attendance for the show was very good, especially compared to the rest of their live attendance numbers. Except for pay-per-views, this company has been really struggling to sell any type of tickets, and it was kind of like a whole big dilemma. Dave Meltzer and WrestleTix were kind of going back and forth, not toward each other, but on Twitter, but they were having kind of conflicting reports. Meltzer was reporting that it was 9,306 tickets sold, and WrestleTix was kind of under that. They were in the 8,000 tickets range. But later on in the night, they confirmed that 9,400 tickets were distributed, which obviously, if you look at any of their attendance besides the pay-per-views, that I mean, obviously, is a very strong number. So attendance-wise, it was a positive. Ratings-wise, it was not a positive. So I would kind of just look at it as like a moot point at that stage regarding those two things. So, I mean, this is kind of it. Honestly ended up best of both worlds for both parties. If you're a WWE fan, like hardcore, you can be like, oh, AEW in the mud, they can't draw a dime, etc., etc. If you're an AEW fan, you can just ignore it and enjoy the product, because let's be honest, Shad Khan has unlimited pockets, and he's going to give Tony Khan unlimited bankroll. I mean, this guy has a $12 billion net worth. I mean, Tony Khan's not going to be out here, working the corner for extra money to put on AEW events. So, I guess it could be looked at the worst case scenario, because the AEW and WWE fans are just going to go at it no matter what, and this is not going to lead to healthy discourse. So, I guess you can look at it from either point of view. But now that leads me into my next topic that I wanted to talk about, which was Max Caster's Twitter meltdown and his picture with Sammy Guevara and whatever he was doing on Twitter the night before Big Business. He was just going off on random people and said a lot of strange things. And the next day didn't take it back, but then doubled down on it. And then the night that Mercedes Moné is debuting, and if everybody knows the comments a long time ago that Sammy Guevara made about Mercedes Moné and then the suspension for Guevara, he takes a picture with Sammy and then posts on Twitter and says, just talk to @Sammy Guevara. He's a great guy, with a picture of him shaking his hand. So interesting timing by Caster to be doing all this. It doesn't, if he's trying to turn heel, which clearly after tonight's events from Bullet Club Gold and the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn is not the direction that they're going in, it just seems like he had some issues, and I don't know. I was it was very strange to see, just from the simple fact that I'm not sure if the criticism and the acclaim fatigue is getting to him or what his issue is right now. He just seemed like he was trying to be super emo and edgy, and it's just coming off really bad. And I mean, that's leading me to my next point, which is why AEW needs to get the trios titles off the acclaimed and on to a hot trios act and get these belts back to how they were in the beginning, which was hot trios matches to open a show, banger matches that you can put on any TV show any time of the week or on any pay-per-view, 4 stars guaranteed. It was, back when Death Triangle and the Elite were running at it, House of Black. I mean, these guys, so just for reference, I've started a title master sheet, which has all the title defenses for all the champions starting of 3/13/24 with all the champions that are holding the titles as of then. And I went back and I rated all of these acclaimed to Billy Gunn title defenses. And I also aggregated the cage match score, which if you don't know what cage match is, it's a website that lists all these matches and a community of people rate them. And so the acclaimed and Billy Gunn, here are the list of opponents, and they've had these titles, let me check, they've had these titles for 198 days, and they have had no greater than 3.25 star match or 6.18 from cage match, and that was against Action Andretti and Top Flight on 12/23/23, and it was none of their matches have been over a 10 minutes and 44 seconds. All of their matches suck, and it's just their run has been awful, and they need, and I think they're going to go in this direction, they need to get these belts off of the acclaimed. It's just, they need to get back to what the titles were originally designed for and put them on anybody. I mean, obviously Bullet Club Gold is a good candidate, but even any of these teams that they face, Action Andretti and Top Flight could put on some great matches. Put them on some form of, whenever Phoenix gets healthy, put them on Death Triangle again. Put them on Commander and whoever, some CMLL guys. Any of these guys who can actually put on good matches. I mean, that's what it needs right now. The acclaimed have, I was all in favor of the acclaimed getting that Wembley moment, Billy Gunn getting that moment, taking the titles off the House of Black, but this should have been only a month-long reign at most. The Trios division has been killed by these guys. There's no intrigue. When's the last time they even defended the belt on pay-per-view? I mean, it's just, they need to get back to the original idea of these titles and what could make them stand out from other companies that don't have Trios titles and show a difference of what other companies don't have. It just doesn't make sense to keep them on the acclaimed. And I think we're leading to that eventually, to where Bullet Club Gold is going to finally take them off. Hopefully we get a break from these guys and they can come back and be refreshed, turn heel, do something, because I'm incredibly sick of this act. I think it's, especially with Caster, how he's been on Twitter, I mean, it's enough for now. And the last thing I wanted to touch on before actually getting into this review was the Ospreay comments. He did an interview with Jericho, and I haven't listened to all of it yet, but he the quotes of the various comments that he's made about why he chose AEW over WWE, and I mean it was pretty much everything was just improved. It was, the reasons he listed were better pay, better schedule because he could live in the UK and then still make the trips to AEW, and WWE weren't gonna allow that. And 3, this is the type of wrestling that he wants to have instead of WWE. And I've just seen a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about. I listen. I responded to this comment on Twitter. This obviously could be just somebody trolling, but I've also seen a lot of WWE people who are only think this way, and they use terms like this, but they don't know what they mean. So at Gigaside on Twitter, Josh W. Sorry about your damn luck. He said, and I quote, and this was in response to just Ospreay talking about the deals he was being offered by AEW and WB. And this guy says, and I quote, "So you took the money, Mark. Don't elevate your brand or you, but good short-term gain," end quote. So I don't think this guy really understands what the word mark means. A mark would be taking the less money and worse schedule to be a mark for WB and to have those WrestleMania type moments, be a WWE superstar. It doesn't make sense. The opposite of being a mark for yourself and for wrestling is to take the better payday, the better work-life balance, and the better overall deal. And that's what he did. And so people who don't understand these comments and say things like this, is just proves they have no idea what they're talking about. It's people that just have, either from the AEW or WB fan side, people that just don't, whether AEW fans say it about WB wrestlers or WB fans say it about AEW wrestlers, they don't know what they're talking about when they say these type of things. And it's just like very frustrating. Like, if you're going to make a point and you're going to be wrong, at least use the correct verbiage. Like, a mark, that doesn't make sense. It's just not it's just not it's not correct. Like, I'm sorry. All right, but I mean, that's enough of getting into all that. I have more to say on Ospreay later. But the show opens. Mercedes Moné as All Elite. New entrance music. I don't think it's very good, but it immediately gets over this CEO chant, which is very catchy. And I was still saying it like in the morning, like I was brushing my teeth. CEO, CEO. Yeah, doing her little CEO dance. I'm doing it right now. So I think that was a good. I mean, the entrance music I still don't think is very good, but it's effective for what it was doing. Crazy hair. I mean, just an insane look. I mean, this hair was pretty nuts. But I enjoyed it. And I mean, she looked like a star. It looked very energizing, great. It was a very like CM Punk type vibe from the promo, which I enjoyed. It was very heartfelt. It was a pretty solid promo from her. And then she announced that she's All Elite. And I thought that, just overall this presentation and debut was pretty solid. Compared to her New Japan debut, it was fantastic when she botched her finish and couldn't cut a promo very well. So this just really established a lot of things going forward. And she comes back later in the night and has another good segment. So I think overall it was a very good night for Mone, just in terms of the debut, establishing this catchphrase, presented like a star, good promo. Later on, nails her finish, ends the show on top. So I think it was all pretty solid, and started with this good promo to start the show. So now we're in the back with Renee Paquette, and she does a little pre-match interview with Joe. It's pretty good. Nothing really to say. He's kind of just establishing that he's the man. He's going to be Wardlow, yada yada. I didn't write this down, but I'm just now remembering they had a Adam Cole reading out of a storybook or something about how Wardlow's going to win. I didn't really pay much attention. I don't know. I'm the Undisputed Kingdom. Again, it's hard to be super invested in them when their main antagonist and their leader of the group are both out injured. It's hard to really take them super seriously. But yeah, so up next we had Wardlow versus Joe for the AEW Heavyweight Championship. Now, I personally didn't really have super high hopes for this. I was very thrilled and excited that this was not going to be built up over such a long period of time to be the Dynasty main event, because you just can't you can't main event with Wardlow against Joe. I mean, I didn't have high hopes for this match in general, because I'm pretty much totally out on Wardlow being anything other than muscle for like a faction like he is right now, and not a world title contender. His promos have been pretty good recently, but in ring wise, I don't think he's interesting enough, especially with like the talent level within this company right now. When you got guys like Ospreay, Okada, Swerve, Joe, Hangman, Omega when he's back, MJF when he comes back, Adam Cole. I mean, Wardlow cannot be in the main event picture. And yeah, I mean, this was fine. It was a very average like heel versus heel big man match with the outcome never really in doubt. I mean, I don't think anybody thought Wardlow was going to beat Joe. since everybody kind of knows where the story's heading right now, at least if you've been paying attention at all, it's pretty obvious Swerve is going to beat Joe at Dynasty, like I said last week on my review. But Joe worked more so face. Obviously, I mean, Wardlow is not going to come in here and work face or any type of way. There were some good near falls and some good counters, but at the end of the day, Joe chokes out Wardlow in the middle of the ring after Wardlow was trying to go for a power bomb, and he was doing his little gimmick where he's been like staring at himself on the monitor and being like, "I'm the man. This is what World Champion should be." And then Joe counters that, taps him, or doesn't tap him out, locks him in a choke. Wardlow passes out, doesn't tap out, so that is a little bit of protection for him. I was interested to see how they were going to get out of this without doing a lot of damage to Wardlow, which, like I said, I don't personally care about if they do a lot of damage to him because I think he's just a muscle of the group, but I think they still want to protect him a little bit. So yeah, I just gave this 3 stars. This was definitely the least exciting or just good Joe match during his title reign so far. I gave the Samoa Joe hook match for the title 4 stars back in January. I gave the Swerve Strickland Hangman Page match 3.75, which I was the low man on because Cage Match gave it 8.11. I just didn't think it was really lived up to I didn't think they were going out there to have a great match. It was sandwiched between Ospreay, Takeshita, and Sting's last match, so I don't think they were going out there to have a great match. I think they had a solid match, and then this one I gave 3 stars, and I do think that this Joe reign, it hasn't been the greatest in-ring, but I think his promos and his presentation are just so strong compared to what we were getting before at the end of the MJF reign that it's really elevated the title back to where it should be. So I've really enjoyed this title reign, even though he's only had 3 defenses, and they've all been kind of, similar range, 3-4 star range, but I really enjoyed the run. Swerve comes out after the match and makes his way past security as Joe runs away. And then once again, like I said, this is setting up Swerve to dethrone Joe at Dynasty. That's the pretty obvious direction right now, and I think it's the right direction at this point. Swerve's got to get a run in with the belt, and I think this is probably about time now with Hangman out of the way too. He's taking time off, so I think this is the right way to go with the title. Up next, we had Kazuchika Okada and the Young Bucks, which the new elite, defeated Pac, Penta El Zero Miedo, and Eddie Kingston. And before this match happened, there was an incredible pre-tape promo with the Bucks and Okada just healing it up. And, that they're talking shit to Alex Marvez back there. And Okada's presentation is this, shitbag heel accompanied by the new Bucks characters. This is just, such a top-level act in this company. I was kind of hesitant for Okada to come in as a heel, but whenever I've seen every single pre-tape or every single match with these guys, it just fits like a glove. I've been on board with this Bucks character since I started. I think they're fantastic at it, and Okada was awesome here. He was super funny. He told Marvez to sing "Happy Birthday" to Matthew Jackson. And then it cut away as he was singing it. So it didn't overstay his welcome. It was just a fun little short pre-tape to get over that these guys are just complete dicks even more heading into their match with the other trio guys, Pac, Penta, and Kingston. And one of my main thoughts just watching this match unfold was, who would have thought we would have ever imagined this collection of guys all being in the ring at the same time? I mean, you got Pac, Penta, Eddie Kingston with Okada and the Bucks, and it's just a collection of people from all different types of companies, all different types of styles, and it's one of the reasons that AEW is a really fun product to be a fan of at times, is just seeing these people all interact, and it's a really fun process. This was good action from everybody though. Pac looked good after not being in the ring for a long time, and the Elite just continued to establish themselves. I gave it 3.5 stars. I thought it was pretty solid, even though it's mostly a story device to set up the title match next week. At the end of the day, there's a low blow from Nicholas Jackson on Eddie Kingston, and that set up the Rainmaker finish from Okada, who pins Kingston to set up the title match. So, overall, good match, good storyline. Really excited for the match next week, and it's going to be a good one for sure. Up next, we had the Will Ospreay promo where he addressed Bryan Danielson, and this is another thing I have to say about Ospreay. is that I posted so many Ospreay clips on my page, and I've seen a lot of people just talk and not understand, and maybe they've seen Ospreay in like 2017 and didn't watch him again because he couldn't cut a promo back then. And he, everybody, he was like, what, 24 back, like 7 years ago, 23. People do not like changing their opinion, and they just like listening to what other people have to say. And if you watch his promo and you still say that Will Ospreay cannot promo, I just don't think you know what you're watching. This promo was fucking incredible. How can you not watch this and want to tune into April 21st and watch Ospreay and Danielson? This was a incredible promo, and it really is shifting the narrative once again. People that have been pointing out to his promo ability, people aren't going to question his match quality unless that's just you don't like his style. It is what it is. I think you're wrong. I think he's incredible. But now that he's went out there and he's cut 2 really good, I think even 3 at this point, 3 really great American television promos, people are going to have to start shifting to something else to complain about and knock him down. And I've seen a lot, and now what they're shifting to is his style of clothes. Like, oh my God, get this guy in a suit. What's he doing out there in a tracksuit? And it's like, well, you got Seth Rollins out there in his neon green Sharpie attire as the world champion, and like that's fine, but a tracksuit isn't. And that's another thing that's another reason that Ospreay wanted to go to AEW was he has his own line of clothing, which is where these tracksuits are from. So he can also promote another stream of income, which he wouldn't have been allowed to do in the WWE most likely. I mean, when are guys coming in with their own merch and not slapping a WWE shop logo on it? So, yeah, I mean, this was an awesome promo. He came out there, spoke from the heart. He comes out with his entrance, his awesome theme song. The crowd chants his name. Elevated is a fantastic song. Obviously, his in-ring work. He's knocked it out of the park every fucking time. And I mean, this guy has megastar potential if you keep building him. He's already one of the most over guys in the company, and he just started. He's had 2 great matches and 3 really good promos, and I would absolutely belt this guy up at Wembley. I would have Swerve have a good run with it, a few-month title run after beating Joe, and then build up to Wembley, Swerve versus Will, main event, and Ospreay beats Swerve, closes the show at Wembley as the AEW champion moving forward. Then at that time, you'll probably have heated up Okada enough to where then it can be Will versus Okada down the line, which, I mean, people haven't seen those matches. I mean, they put on some classics. They got great chemistry. So, again, Ospreay went out there, knocked it out of the park. Absolute superstar. This guy is phenomenal. And I don't think people are saying, oh, Paul Levesque probably kicked himself. I don't know if I would go that far. I mean, I think Ospreay is much more valuable to AEW than he is WWE. And WWE is at the point where, for the most part, regardless of what they do, they're going to succeed. People are going to watch their product. They're an established entity. AEW needs guys like Ospreay, like Okada, like MJF, like even like somebody like a Jay White, like these type of guys who aren't stars yet. And they need to build them into their own stars, and then that way be able to really elevate and go beyond just, AEW hardcore fans loving them. And I think that's why Ospreay is much more valuable to AEW than he would have been in WWE. I'm sure he would have done well in WWE, but I think he's much more valuable, and he's going to be much more of a key player in AEW than he would have been in WWE for sure. Moving on from that, apparently we're going to be getting the tag team tournament brackets announced on Rampage. I don't know. I thought this was going to be a bigger deal, but apparently we're just going to announce the bracket on Rampage and then not give anybody any time to really get excited for it, considering that it starts on Collision the following day. So, again, this is another promotion problem from AEW. They struggle with how to correctly and utilize marketing and their social media to their advantage. Like, this is not going to gain any interest in this tournament. It's just not. Like, this should have been done on the Dynamite after Revolution, or the Rampage, or the Collision. I mean, it should have been done a while ago. But, I mean, they probably don't even know who's all going to be in the tournament now. Speaking of tag teams, Jarrett Hook versus Gates of Agony. I think it's kind of interesting how they've kept Gates of Agony heel with Prince Nana still managing them, but obviously Nana is managing the biggest or second biggest babyface in the company right now in Swerve. So I think it'd be interesting to see a face turn from the Medical Embassy. It's just kind of like a shock whenever you see him come out, and obviously much different reaction for them than for Swerve. The crowd was pretty dead for this, which can't really blame them. I mean, this was not super interesting or really very hot. There's a long control section for Gates of Agony. Hook then got a hot tag, and then the crowd kind of got into it. It was a decent enough warm-up match for them before the tournament, is what I said when writing this down as I was watching it, and I gave it 2 stars. But are they even going to be in the tournament? Because they announced Jericho versus Hook next week on Dynamite, so I don't even know if they're actually going to be in the tournament, which I assume they were, but it doesn't look like they will be, which is kind of strange, but whatever. People have been questioning why Jericho's gone away from Judas as his like entrance music, and he's going for his Lionheart look, and people he was doing it for the CMLL guys with like his old lucha guys he was going against, and then I think that he's going with the Lionheart because also, or at least this is what's been talked about, is that he's been using it since he's going against Taz's kid, obviously Hook, so that might be the reason. I'm unsure. His pop is much definitely not as strong without the Judas built in for him. So, but I definitely do think Jericho needs to take some time off. I think he's looked the worst that he has in a long time. He feels directionless for the first time in a while, and I'm just not confident that he really can hang with these guys anymore. And he's just not interested. Like, he needs to go away for a good few months, make people miss him, come back, Judas will hit, and he'll be loved by the fans again. So, I mean, like, Fozzy needs to take needs to go on tour or something, because Jericho needs a refresher for sure. Like, he needs something. Then we get a little Kyle O'Reilly interview backstage. He just hypes up his match on Collision against Brian Keith, which that should be a really good match. Roddy interrupts and tells him, what's up, man? You can do it on your own if you want to. Kyle. And then they leave the area, and Kyle not looking confident about doing it on his own as they all exit. So I still think this is leading to a match between Roddy and Kyle down the line. And, as long as Kyle's still in good ring shape, or he knocks some rust off, I mean, that will obviously be a great match. And then this is when they announce Lionheart versus Hook next week on Dynamite. Then moving on to the main event, this is Willow versus Riho, which, this being the main event should have tipped everybody off that Mone was definitely coming back at the end of the show, especially with her history with Willow. And I like Riho's in-ring work, but it's just very unbelievable that she would even have a chance against someone so much bigger and more powerful like Willow. So she's just so small. It's really tough to take her seriously. And then they also announced during this match that Kingston versus Okada is for the Continental Championship next week, which is surprising. They're not holding it off until Dynasty, but Kingston's going to eat that Rainmaker next week for sure. Riho misses a foot stomp from the top rope, which Willow counters into a pounce, and then Willow, following that up, then misses a flip on Riho on the outside, which was a nasty landing. Then Riho follows that up with a double foot stomp to the outside. Then dragon suplex by Riho, followed by another foot stomp to Willow for a 2.9. This match got pretty decent, going back and forth up until the end. And then the finish is gut wrench powerbomb by Willow to win. And I just give this 3.25 stars. Not a bad match. I thought it was better than the Joe Wardlow match, but there's only such a ceiling with Riho for me. She just comes across as super unbelievable, even though I do like her ring work. If she were like 5'5", she'd be fantastic. So yeah, after the match, Julia Hart and Sky Blue jump Willow. Mone comes out for the save. CEO. You know how it goes. Mone comes out for the save and a huge pop. There was no Statlander to make thought this was interesting. No Statlander to make the save. I assume that'll be a part of a story between the breakup of these two, Statlander and Willow. So Mone takes out Blue and Hart, and she ends the show on top as CEO chants reign over her as she does her little CEO dance. So that closes out that edition of Dynamite. I think I'd give it like an 8.5 or a 9. I thought that the crowd was awesome. There was a fun debut. There were good matches, really good vibes. And it was a super easy to watch 2-hour show. It flew by, lots of stuff happening. I thought it was really fantastic. I just realized that I just completely missed Jay White and Darby. So I'll run over that real quick. Darby took some insane bumps to his back. There's a suplex. I actually love this match. This is actually my favorite match of the night. I can't believe I skipped over this. Darby took some insane bumps to his back. There's a suplex into a chair and a crazy bump on the stairs. And then later on, he may have took the nastiest coffin drop. So like usually whenever they do a coffin drop, whenever he does a coffin drop on the edge of the ring apron, he like hits the edge and then he like kind of plops down to the outside of the floor. This one, he like hit the edge and like scooted along the apron and then bounced super hard on his face, and it looked nasty. That all played into the story of the match. White was having some stiff chops to the back and the chest, and it was like selling the story of Darby's back from Revolution and tonight. And just watching this match, Jay White is one of the best counter wrestlers I've ever seen. It was like if you watch any of his matches with like Okada or Omega, and even right here, like the way he can like chain the Blade Runner from like any position and like all the counters that happen. I mean, that's where he thrives, and it was really sweet during this match. So after that crazy looking coffin drop on the edge of the ring, Darby beats the count of 9 to keep the match going, and then White just immediately hits a Blade Runner and ends the match, which I thought was a really good finish. I give this 4.25 stars. I thought it was awesome. It was definitely the match of the night. After the match, Bullet Club Gold are beating down on Darby. The Acclaimed and Billy Gunn make the save, but Bullet Club Gold finally turn on them, and this stupid super group breaks up. Finally, they beat down all of them. They beat up Darby, take out his leg. So I'm just thrilled. Like I said earlier, I'm just thrilled that the Acclaimed and Bullet Club Gold are breaking up, because I fucking couldn't stand that group. I like I said earlier, I'm ready for the Acclaimed to lose these belts. I'm ready for Bullet Club Gold to get these belts. And so I guess that's how we ended, is with Jay and Darby. So yeah, the company has a feeling of becoming hot again for the summer, with a new talent infusion. I think if they can keep consistently having good shows, and next week looks really good, it'll eventually drive up the ratings and the interest. Or maybe this could just be their new ceiling, that they're 800,000 and 0.28, 0.29. Maybe that's their ceiling at this point. But next week on Dynamite, there's Eddie Kingston versus Kazuchika Okada for the Continental Championship. Christian Cage versus Adam Copeland for the TNT Championship in an I Quit match. Hook versus Chris Jericho. Tony Storm and Mariah May versus Deonna Purrazzo and a mystery partner. Spoiler, it's Thunder Rosa. And then they also are advertising Mercedes Moné speaking. So, that seems like a pretty loaded show. I think that there's going to be 2 title changes. I think Okada wins the Continental Championship, and I think Copeland wins the TNT Championship. So, I think it's going to be a pretty loaded show and packed show next week. But yeah, that's kind of where I stand with this show. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, super easy to watch, super fun. I've really enjoyed the AEW product the last few weeks, really since the beginning of the year. But so yeah, if you enjoyed this review, leave a like, subscribe. I'm gonna be trying to do more of these reviews. I'm trying to do maybe a weekly show, wrapping up some news and notes, some WWE stuff coming, maybe some retro stuff. So yeah, definitely like and subscribe. You can follow and subscribe to all these episodes on the Pro Wrestling Bites podcast feed, which is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, which I know is going away, Pocket Cast, whatever. Mostly all of them, I think, have it at this point. Then you can also go on my page at Pro Wrestling Bites on Instagram. I've got a link tree that has all my links for social media and stuff. And you can just hit me up on there, talk about wrestling. Follow me on there, post clips, GIFs, discussion about really terrible acting from Candice LeRae and Maxine Dupree. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I'll talk to you guys on the next review, preview, whatever I decide to do at this point. All right, see you.